Good evening and welcome. My name is Simon Richardson. In brief, I'm aiming that this tutorial is going to give you an overview of my journey so far in the world of visual effects, as well as an introductory look at a basic keying workflow inside the Foundry's Nuke. So whether you're actually in your final year of university or college, maybe you are a person looking for a career change, or potentially a keen hobbyist with a good eye, I'm actually hoping that the following is going to give those of you who are deliberating on whether visual effects is for you an insight into my kind of journey so far, I guess. So a little bit more about me. After finishing at Escape, I have now become a freelance junior compositor, and I'm actually currently working for the Nuke department at the Mill Commercials in London. For me, this position gives more of a generalist approach to compositing. So it kind of means that during any projects, I'm going to be maybe required to call upon a number of varied skills such as keying and CGI compositing. Compared to that with what I've been told about film, where you may actually be spending longer amounts of time in one particular role. So part of my day-to-day tasks as a nuke artist includes some of the more traditional compositing techniques, such as rotoscope, as well as rigger removal. Now, this can kind of predominantly involve painting out wires and rigs that may be attached to an actor or actress for safety, as well as I do get chance to take on some of the more recent technological advancements in 2D, such as camera projections. Now, these are something that kind of Nuke has brought to the game, really. It's now kind of embedded a whole, or integrated, I should say, a whole new 3D kind of system, which has kind of changed everything a little bit. But during my time spent at the mill, I've actually worked on a number of projects, which include most recently a music video for Heineken starring Gin Wigmore, which is actually part of the new Bond Skyfall franchise, as well as the brand new BBC campaign for digital radio. And this can actually be seen on the Mill's website, so go check it out. However, to give you a further reference to the Mill, I'm about to show you their latest showreel for the UK. I hope you enjoyed watching that small piece, and I guess after that it leads me on to how I got here and why going to Escape for me made all the difference. So a bit of my background was that I guess when I left school I knew that I wouldn't want to be a banker or a lawyer. I initially wanted to get into games, that was kind of my first port of call really, but wasn't 100% sure on what opportunities were out there and what sort of route I would have to go down. So I enrolled on a BTEC National Diploma in Media at my local college in Chichester. This for me was a great starting point actually, because the course offered modules including journalism, radio and filming, and editing. So this kind of gave me a good starting block to many different aspects of what the media industry could offer. From there I went on to university, where I spent 4 years studying on a BSc Media Production course at De Montfort in Leicester. This course was, however, a lot more of an engineering degree, so it meant that the syllabuses were a lot more tech heavy. This did actually give me, or has given me, the ability to kind of look at the more technical aspects within the media industry and understand more of actually what's going on under the hood, which is, in my opinion, quite a good thing to have. And it was actually during my work placement of my 4 year course that I found Escape. From here, I discovered the role of compositing. So it was actually after reading through their website that I found what compositing kind of was. And it seemed to me that this job would be something that would suit my personality and where I'd like to be. So I kind of then guessed, well, I've still got a couple of years of uni left. So I then thought to get ahead, I proceeded to look at the software that they were teaching at the time. Now, at the time, they were actually predominantly teaching Shake. So Shake is kind of the predecessor to Nuke. It's kind of been phased out in a lot of companies now. I think it is being used, but not as much. And the kind of things that I was doing here were kind of keying exercises, as at the time I was working on a music video, which started out inside After Effects, as that's actually what we were being taught. But I quickly found that the After Effects workflow was extremely difficult and time consuming when it came to creating mats and integrating the plates together. So by plates I mean like the foreground element which was shot on the green screen, as well as the background that these elements were going over. So then, I guess after finishing my degree, I was then actually asked to work on some commercials which involved editing inside Final Cut for actually 5 perfume ads. As well, I was then working on ad campaigns and I was actually filming for the company as well. Later, I was then sent to New York for a filming project for a documentary website. So when I came back from my work placement in the States and managed to get the money together, I decided that it was time to take up the Escape experience. This started out with me enrolling on their 12-week compositing course. This course actually gave me the chance to both study the art of compositing as well as learn the buttons to tackle many of the problems faced day to day. Um, and then after graduating as one of their esteemed escapees, I was then actually invited back to become their first ever 2D studio assistant. And it was actually during this time I worked closely with many of the industry's leading professionals, including Hugo Guerrera, Lee Danskin, and Davey Stein. I was then pleasantly surprised when the opportunity arose for me to do a 2-week work placement at Frame Store Commercials in Knoll Street. And it was at this time that I reaffirmed that compositing was actually something that I wanted to do professionally, as it was being my first real taste of industry. And it was actually the first time that I was really able to put into practice the skills that I'd actually learnt at Escape. So leading on from here, with the encouragement of the Escape team, I actually managed to get my reel together. It did actually take me a little bit of time, but your sort of show reel really is the backbone, in my opinion, to you getting a job. It kind of shows a potential employer that you're able to do the jobs that are required for you to do in industry. So I'm going to show you shortly my reel that got me a job. But if I just kind of say sort of my showreel tips for any aspiring artist is to try and create something unique to you. It's basically you want to go to a job interview and show yourself off as best as you can. I guess the obvious place to start is to ensure that you tick all of the boxes required so that you can again demonstrate you have the relevant skills required. For any entry role in compositing, you would need to definitely include rotoscope, paint and prep, as well as potentially venturing out into some keying. But again, I would definitely recommend you getting to grips with splines. They're kind of what we use out there to generate mats manually. So that would be going most of the time having to manually cut out an object from a certain plate. Um, and really, the standout choice that I made in my reel was to film everything myself. This included help with my CG partner Max Woodhead. The pair of us kind of went out, and in a couple of shots we actually art directed them as well as produced. So that meant we managed to get hold of the cameras to do the filming. Went on to set, even though it was just in Leicester. We actually went out on set, took measurements, that sort of thing. Uh, but I'm just now going to show you my reel. Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to watch my reel. I hope that it was beneficial to you. So moving into the final part of tonight's tutorial, and that is now the basic keying workflow. Now, my kind of idea with this exercise really is just to give you a small little demonstration piece of a workflow that could be used to pull a key inside a node-based system such as Nuke. What I won't actually be doing is teaching you how to use the nodes that I'm actually using, because in particular to things like keylights or any of the other Premiere keys inside Nuke, there are a number of tutorials, such as the ones on the Foundry's website, made by Steve Wright, that you can actually watch to see how you go about using those nodes. It's more just to kind of give you the overview, because for me, when I was starting to learn, I found it kind of frustrating when I would always just be shown how to use the node and not necessarily how that node was used in conjunction with others to get a final result. So what I'm going to start by doing is just explaining what we can see on screen. Now this is actually a plate that I filmed a few weeks ago. And it's really just there to be used as a still frame just to demonstrate the idea. Now what you can see on screen, and if I just highlight those, is a number of white squares and actually this microphone stand that we have on set as well. Now these are something that you will commonly see for any green screen plate. These are what we would describe as tracking markers. Now these tracking markers are there to give us data so that we can actually, or I should say, gather data so that we can put in a background that will match identically to the camera move on set that we filmed with. So as a junior artist, it will actually be our job to remove these so that the plate can then be keyed. So if we just come in and just have a quick zoom in to the plate here, the first thing that I've actually done is I've actually just used the key mix node to remove those markers. So if we then look into the mat work, you'll actually notice now that I have three separate mats. Now the first here is what we would describe as the core mats. Now this for me is the most important part, or the first starting block when doing any keying, because it's actually the part that's going to be the building block or foundation for the rest of your detail. Now the core mat is actually a mat that is not getting any fine hair detail. All it is there to do is to fill holes where your soft matting, where we'd have over here, is actually maybe going to leave holes within the inner area of our body here. So I'll demonstrate that part, or show you that part in a minute. But if we actually look at this copy node and just use hotkey M, all I've actually done is I've just shrunk our mat in ever so slightly. So it's not actually anywhere near the edge, as this mat is actually what we would describe as a hard mat. So if we then look over here, what I've started to do is I've started to break the keys down. Now the reason for this is you'd actually be very lucky if you're to find a key that works, or sorry, if you found one keyer that actually keys the entire shot 100% correctly. More often you'll find that you're having to combine a multiple array of matting techniques, whether it be different keyers like Keylight, IBK or Primat, or whether in some cases you are physically having to do some rotoscope. Now different areas will of the plates will need different treatments, so you may find that one keyer may work for one specific part of the plate, i.e. Keylight may be giving you the best result for the hair, whereas you might find that Primat is giving you a better result for the body. So that's where the rotoscope is actually coming in, to isolate those specific areas to give you the best attainable result. So if I just look at my hair mat here, I found that I was able to get good results all round with Keylight. But all I've done with a simple roto shape is just isolated that area. Now, using a channel merge, all I've actually done is now just combined this core mat, which we can see here, and I've just combined the two mats together. So I've now got the core mat combined with my soft hair mat. So if we just go back and have a look at this hair mat on its own, we'll actually notice that we've actually got quite a lot of, or if we just turn down our gamma, we're actually getting quite a few holes in the inner part of our forehead here. So that again is the main reason why we use the core matting technique, as it fills those holes. So if we then look over here on the left hand side, is we've actually got as well a main body mat. So this main body mat, if I just close this roto down, is now qualified using a separate roto shape down here, and this body mat is now getting us all the nice soft detail of the outside of the forearms and the rest of the body. So all I'm doing then again is just combining that single mat with the rest of my mat to get pretty much a good final result. What I then always tend to do at the bottom of my script is use a clamp. Now all the clamp is doing is ensuring that my mat work stays between a value of 0 and 1. And that's a very important thing to make sure you're doing, is you don't want any of your mats to exceed 1 or go below 0. I won't go into the technicalities for that, but it's just something to make sure you make sure you do, as when you're merging items together, it's very easy to put an incorrect operation, which will then result in your mat exceeding or going below 0 and 1. So if we then just move over, the next part, if we look here, is, and this is probably where the node based system really comes into its own, is because I have a single read node at the top of my tree. I then have my cleanup. And if you notice here, I'm able to actually branch off now. So my mat work and my spill suppression for the plate are totally separate. However, what you would notice is that you could put anything into my mat work stream, whether it be a color correction, or I might want to degrain my plate to get a better key, you name it, you can do it. But what it's not going to do is it's not going to be affecting your physical plate that you are wanting in the final result. It's just there to help out your key work. So if we then follow on here, all I've done again is just use a key light node. This again is just quite a simple way of doing any spill suppression. I've just put a 0.5 value in the green here just to give me a spill suppressed version of the plate. And then what I'm doing is I'm now coming into the bottom of my tree where I'm using a copy combined with a pre-mult. So now what I'm doing, the B input being my background and the A input being the alpha that I wish to copy across. If we look in here, if we just imagine this column that we have here is my A stream, and this column here is my B stream. All I'm doing is I'm copying the alpha channel from A and replacing it to the B channel. So if we now look at my copy node here, I then just toggle on my M or my mat overlay, as you can now see that I've brought over my nice clean mat that I've generated with my key work over on the left hand side. What I'm then doing is I'm then pre-multiplying that image. So what I now have is a pre-multiplied result. So what that basically means is that I'm multiplying the RGB values by so my RGB of my color image by a black and white image that has a value between 0 and 1. So for example, any RGB value multiplied by 0 will stay 0 or will become 0. Anything multiplied by 1, any RGB value multiplied by 1 will stay the same. Hence why if I just quickly click between the copy and the pre-mult, you'll now see that the alpha values here, and we can see these down here, anything multiplied by 0 is now turned 0, so that's black, and anything multiplied by a value of 1, where I see white, will stay the same. So all I've then done is taken a grey constant here, just a 0.5 value of grey, and then just merged my pre-multiplied results over the background. So if I just come back down here into the node graph and just fit that to screen, and maybe just zoom in and go full screen on it actually, so you can see, just so you can get an idea. And if I just leave this on screen so you can see the workflow just while I finish off this tutorial. So basically, once again, just going through the steps, is that I've got my foreground plate. I've then cleaned this up, and I could use a multiple array of techniques to do this. I have then pulled my key, or done my mat work separately to the rest of my plate. It's actually been offset. As then I've also done my spill suppression. This once again can be done using a number of different nodes and techniques. I have then pre-multiplied my foreground plate by the key that I've generated, and I've then merged that over the background. So hopefully this has been useful to you. I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing any comments that you may have to what we've done this evening. But thank you very much, and good night.